Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Even as we cut waste and inefficiency, this budget freeze will require some tough choices. It will mean cutting things that I care deeply about. For example, community action programs in low-income neighborhoods and towns, and community development block grants that so many of our cities and states rely on. But if we're going to walk the walk when it comes to fiscal discipline, these kinds of cuts will be necessary. I'm also looking forward to working with members of both parties to take steps beyond this budget freeze, because cutting annual domestic spending won't be enough to meet our long-term fiscal challenges. As the Bipartisan Fiscal Commission concluded, the only way to truly tackle our deficit is to cut excessive spending wherever we find it, in domestic spending, defense spending, health care spending, and spending through tax breaks and loopholes. So what we've done here is make a down payment. But there's going to be more work that needs to be done, and it's going to require Democrats and Republicans coming together to make it happen.
When the president presents his budget later in February, you will see significant cuts throughout the discretionary budget, such as he mentioned, the community, the CSBG, it's called. It's for community action groups. He's going to cut that in half, but he's also going to reformulate it from a formula-based grant of money to a similar to the Race to the Top. So it would be based upon performance in these community actions.
Don Mathis is President and CEO of the Community Action Partnership, here to talk about possible cuts to community block grants. Let's just begin with what they are.
Thanks, Greta. The Community Service Block Grant is a series of funds that have been around since 1981 and actually date back to the War on Poverty in 1964. And what it is, it's federal money that goes to states, the governor's office, and they in turn grant it out to community agencies in their area to provide services for human needs. Basically, they provide economic security for families and individuals who are low income. And when we say low income, we mean below the poverty level, and that's $22,000 for a family of four. So we're talking about people and families that are really struggling economically to get by, all of which has been exacerbated by the recession.
So the money goes from the federal government to where? And
to the state capital of the governor, and then the governor and his designee in turn grant it out to local agencies in the community. It would be Community Action Partnership of Des Moines, of Pittsburgh, of San Bernardino, and those agencies, for the most part, are nonprofit agencies. There are 1,100 community action agencies across the country. We service 96% plus of America's counties. Some of them are private nonprofit agencies. A few of them, about less than 20%, are municipal agencies. Cities like Philadelphia, Baltimore, San Diego, other cities, they're run by city government there. In states like Texas and Florida, they're run by county governments, but the mission is the same. Federal money to the states, to the communities, that the communities decide how it's to be spent for programs that help disadvantaged low-income people in that community.
How many people do you know estimating have access to or benefit from community block grants?
I don't have to estimate or guess because, as you might expect, when federal dollars are involved, there's a pretty rigorous accounting and reporting system. So the most recent figures we have are for the fiscal year 2009. And during that year, 20.7 million Americans were served by community action agencies. And we fully expect that was before the Great Recession, and that was before also the Recovery Act money came in, which really boosted community action like it did other federal departments, that will serve substantially more than 20.7 million when we see the 2010 numbers, because the need was greater and there were more resources to invest in those needs.
What's the budget for community block grants?
It's about $700 million per year. It went up to $1 billion during the Recovery Act. There was more money there to provide this kind of services like weatherization, like home energy assistance, family support services, economic development, and other things that help poor people. It's now anticipated the Recovery Act is over, it would return to the $700 million. And that's what we were thinking about until the President informed us differently in his State of the Union address.
Odell Cleveland has had a great reputation of performance in our town for a long time. And we started hearing about the welfare reform program back in the 99, 90, 2000 era. And basically what he was doing was, helping people who needed help and getting companies and foundations and so forth to grant them some money to help people. And one thing led to another, and it's called collaboration. One thing led to another, and it ended up being his performance. And the performance of the agency was so outstanding that he was able to attract a rather large federal grant. And the basis of the program, which is really right at the heartbeat of what our society is all about, and it's taking people who, for whatever reason, got out of the mainstream. And they missed the opportunity of getting a quality education when they were school age, which would give them something that they could go market in the marketplace. And what welfare reform has done is to set up a net to catch a lot of those people, and to catch those people and then to train them in a skill that they can take out into the marketplace and earn a living. And that's why I think, just a quote right out of the Bible, if you teach somebody how to fish, they're going to be able to feed the whole world. So if you give somebody a fish, they're going to eat that, and that's going to be the end of it. And welfare reform teaches people how to fish.
As the skeletons of the 20th century industry stand in stubborn hope that jobs will return to the quieter side of town, Odell Cleveland wasn't about to wait around. He's been playing hoops with UNC Greensboro social work professor Bob Weinberg for years, and
the first time that Odell and I had a conversation beyond basketball was when he asked me, "Oh, I see you're giving a presentation at Yale. My thesis is on the black church's response to welfare reform."
In the mid-90s, President Clinton signed welfare reform legislation that required a lot of people who were simply collecting checks from the government to go to work.
I saw it all as an opportunity that we can train people on how to fish instead of giving them fish. We can move people towards self-sufficiency.
Cleveland and Weinberg together created the Welfare Reform Liaison Project, where first they convinced people that they can succeed.
A lot of times people just don't believe they can. And there's not a lot of people around them saying, you can do it. Come on, we all need cheerleaders.
Telling them that they can model all the jobs they see in the world, the teachers, the pharmacy and airport techs, or more, because he's done it himself.
And someone like myself who came from a single-parent home, who grew up in public housing in Charleston, South Carolina, I understood how it is to have no hope. But because in early days I could dunk a basketball, folks said, we will give you a chance. We will let you come and entertain the real students and go to college and get a degree.
The Welfare Liaison Project starts with 6 weeks of classroom training on the basics of being employed and employable, punctuality, responsibility, commitment.
As you can see, this is
Next,
could be a little bit of anything.
the move to the warehouse, where they take products from companies like Men's Warehouse,
60 is sportswear.
or Walmart, which donates boxes full of items that might have their packaging damaged, and they have a question to answer.
How do I package it so it's presentable?
So it can be resold in their store for a fraction of its normal costs to people who need a break. Often, the customers are on food stamps.
We have no food here, we deliberately. So these are the items Food Stamp doesn't buy.
The money helps sustain the program, and without a program like this and the skills it imparts, most of the people in it would be
Out on the streets, sleeping in cars. That's where people who don't have anything end up when there's no clear set of resources for them to get on a path.
And this is a path that's more than just a way to make people feel good. It has measurable results for the 1,000 or so who've been through it. Each one who has used this training to get a job is pictured on the wall. And the project calculates that they have earned more than $9 million in wages over the years.
These individuals were costing money, whether they were on welfare, whether they may have been locked up or maybe whatever. Now they're earning money, paying taxes.
That's the marvel of this organization, that someone may have the seed in him or her to become a sunflower, but maybe a dandelion. But by coming through this program and letting them look inside themselves and see the sunflower, you would be surprised the sunflowers that walk out of this organization.
Seeing human potential and then making it blossom. Bob Buckley.
And it's just amazing.
Fox 8 News.